the others.
The new album. The last album you described as Dr. Dre beats with an Ike Turner bowl cut, which I love.
Don't remind me. Is that what it said? Wow.
About AM. How would you describe this one to those who haven't heard it?
Wow, I'm yet to put it into something quite as succinct as that. But perhaps in the next hour or so we can dream
You could come up
something
with a perfect line.
I haven't thought about that bowl cut for a while.
It's a good line.
I might have lost something that I had back then.
What a knack for describing an album in a succinct sentence.
Yeah.
Well, is it true that it all started with a piano? Can you tell us about that? Like the starting point of the new album?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think I can't remember having any ideas before the piano arrived in my spare room where I have a little studio at home. This place, we recorded some of the record here, but before that I'd been working on it at home, and the guitar had seemed to had sort of lost its ability to give me ideas. It seemed like I suppose I think I'd sit every time I felt like I sat with a guitar. I was suspicious of where it was going to go. You know, I think I had a pretty good idea of what the outcome might be, which was completely contrary to how I felt when I sat at this piano, and suddenly, my imagination was ignited once more.
Had you played before?
I played a little bit I had lessons a little bit as an 8-year-old kid, not for very long. I never got much further than Ode to Joy, I don't think, but it gave me, it was the first time I'd done anything with a musical instrument. I remember like a few years after that when I got into playing guitars. As a teenager, I was a lot more excited about that than I had been about the piano. But, we had a keyboard in our house. My dad played a bit. Although he wouldn't call it his first instrument either, I don't think. His stepdad was a really good pianist. So I'd been around. I'd been around it, and so they were one of my grandmas, and they were one at home. So I'd always played a little bit here and there, and obviously, like when you come to places like this, which I've done a few times in the past 12 years or whatever, I'd occasionally find myself sat at a piano stool. But as far as writing anything on the piano, I hadn't done that, with the exception of one or two things here and there. On the Puppets album, the song Everything You've Come to Expect, I wrote on this organ that I've got at home, and I feel like that and the opening track to this, Star Treatment, were like two pieces I wrote on keyboards that were that are linked, were like kind of from the same time. You know what I mean? So I had that at the start, but as far as any ideas beyond that, it all kind of fell into place after that. After the arrival of the piano, I suppose it's like I'd been playing things that sound like some of the stuff on this album, which very much reminds me of the types of things that I was used to hearing my dad play at home growing up. Like, he's a lot more into jazz than I am or my mother is, and I think it's sort of him kind of the types of things he'd play on piano. I'm very much reminded of that, like when I hear this record. Like it reminds me of things I sort of remember hearing as a kid. And this past few weeks we've been rehearsing them, and there are certain bits that I sort of think, that's like kind of a move my dad might do.
Yeah. Has your dad heard it?
Yeah.
Is he into it?
I think he's all right.
Chef. I love it. So let's talk about then the actual lyrical content, because this album, more than any other album that you've done, in my opinion, is, there's a theme, right? A kind of lyrical theme, which is of this place, the Tranquility Hotel, on the moon. Where did that all kind of start in your brain?
Right, where did it start? I think it started with the idea of it might have been to do with some of the stuff I was reading and some of the films I was watching around then, and the idea of I think it started perhaps from this song Science Fiction, actually,
Yeah.
maybe, which is on
Yeah.
there. And I think it started with the idea of science fiction, and how it's often used, or the worlds that are created within it, or, you know, or the idea of space travel, or, like, you know, time travel, or whatever it might be, is quite often, it seemed to me, or by my estimations, it was used to put out there an idea of, actually, about the world we're living in. I think firstly I became interested in that idea, and I suppose that's where the song Science Fiction, or that's what the song sort of explores a little bit. And then I sort of ended up, I suppose, making a world of my own after that.
Yeah.
And once I'd opened up the sort of box of language related to science fiction, I couldn't help myself, but, you know, there's like a reference to a rocket or something or other every 20 seconds. Yeah.
Did it
But I'm only
change?
human.
Did it change the way that you, like, did it afford you to work in a different way?
I think I made it up as I went along, definitely. It wasn't like there was a preconceived idea that it was going to be named that, or that title was given to the album sort of retrospectively, I suppose. And I think I was drawn to that because some of my favourite records to me feel like places that you can go and sort of move in for a bit if you like, or visit. So it seemed to make sense to me to name it after a place, and I guess that was the only song title I had on there that was sort of related. It suggested this idea of a, you know, hotel complex. The type of sounds I was, or the chord progressions, or the music I was composing, let's say, on the piano, and like on the other. On these recordings that I was making, definitely informed the lyrics, I feel, as much as any films I was watching or anything that was going on in front of me. Like, I think it often does seem like it really does come from the music. Like that seems to suggest things to me as much as, if not more than, like everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lyrically, there seems to be plenty of glimpses of you in there. Would you agree?
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I think that's always, you know, that's always the case. Even when you put something down there that you think doesn't make a great deal of sense, I think it's still somehow especially in the case of this record, to me, it sort of takes the whole 11 tracks to sort of tell its story, I suppose. Maybe tell its story is not quite right, but to do its job or do whatever it's going to do, I think it takes that was like a conscious thing, I think, that I'd learnt from some songwriters that I admire, is just trying to not put it succinctly, I suppose, and let it just let it just take your time, I suppose.
And then there is little stretches where you feel like there's a picture painted that I can imagine you in it, like you in a pub talking shite about martial arts. I don't know if that is supposed to be you.
Go on.
I like those pictures painted where I can imagine that it might be you. That might be autobiographical.
Yeah. I think it all is to some degree, but I think particularly so in instances like the one you just laid out there. Yeah, I think that is nothing more than me. I'm speaking to no one really but myself there. That is like a thing. And I think in an effort to stop doing this, if I put it in like a pop song, I kind of might catch
have
myself
to do it
before I, start talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be singing it enough times, it's like a mantra.
Yeah. I have to find something else to bullshit about.
Yeah.